अस्सलाम वालेकुम। क्या हाल है फ्रेंड्स? आज हमारे साथ हैं फैज़, मेरे दोस्त, एंड आई एम गोइंग टू लेट फैज़ इंट्रोड्यूस हिमसेल्फ। बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं और इनका जो प्लेटफॉर्म है अक्सर मैं इस्तेमाल करता हूँ फॉर माय ओन रिसर्च, क्योंकि आई frequently have to make slide decks for investors and VCs and for my own analysis. तो um, इस मुल्क में अभी जो मेन इशू ये है कि यू डोंट गेट इंफॉर्मेशन, यू डोंट गेट डेटा। मगर फैज ने इतना अच्छा ये मतलब काम किया है, फर्स्ट टाइम इन द हिस्ट्री ऑफ द कंट्री, के सारे सोर्सेज हैं ऑफ डेटा इनको स्क्रूटनाइज करके मेड अ प्लेटफॉर्म, इज डूइंग एनालिसिस, और बहुत से जो सीक्रेट्स हैं हमारी इकोनॉमी में वो इसके जरिए अनलॉक हो रहे हैं। एंड इट्स फैंटास्टिक, आई थिंक, इफ यू आर एन एंटरप्रेन्योर कि इनका प्लेटफॉर्म इस्तेमाल हम करें। बट आई लेट हिम स्पीक अ बिट मोर अबाउट दैट। इवन विद गवर्नमेंट, understanding data and understanding कि exactly हो क्या रहा है, this is what allows us to see, and this is the wonderful work Faiz is doing. तो Faiz यार, over to you. आप please explain करें, maybe अगर अपने बारे में, if you could just explain a bit about yourself and your past and अभी क्या कर रहे हैं, and then let's speak about this platform.
No, that's great. I don't think I can do justice to a better introduction क्योंकि आपने इतना अच्छा introduce कर दिया in terms of Macro Pakistani and what we do. So yeah, in simple terms, we do exactly what you said, which is we collate data from a variety of sources, be it public sources or private sources, put it together and put it in a sort of form that people can understand it in, right? So हमारी government publications, and if you start looking at the raw data, it will drive you mad in the sense of PDF files में release होता है. It's not really in a shape or form that a layperson can understand. So we do the hard work of trying to collate that data, analyze it, and put it in front of consumers who need this data, such as yourselves. I think we should spend a lot more time talking about the economy of Pakistan, etc., and how we're trying to contribute there. But just a bit of an introduction about myself as well. So I founded Macro Pakistani around a year ago while I was doing an MBA at Harvard Business School. Before that, I'd been in company as a management consultant in the Middle East. My undergrad was in economics from LUMS. So talking about the economy was sort of came naturally to me. Putting it in a semi-aesthetically pleasing form came from consulting. So I just put the two things together and tried to see how I can contribute to society in Pakistan. I've also worked at the State Bank of Pakistan, so I have a...
बस ये एक बात बताएं, which is I think very interesting to me, and I know the answer, but मैं चाह रहा हूँ कि आप explain करें। आपने हार्वर्ड से किया हुआ है, you got a fantastic job, you're doing great, और ये जो काम आप कर रहे हैं इसमें काम बहुत ज़्यादा है। I know how much work it takes कि आप grab the data, analyze कर रहे हैं, Excel में डाल रहे हैं, you're trying to make sense of it. इसमें अच्छा खासा मतलब there's a lot of work. आप ये क्यों करते हैं काम?
No, I started as a very sort of side hobby thing. COVID ke dauran, for example, the average person had more time available at their hands. So instead of spending more time on Netflix, I decided to do this. And I am a bit geeky, so like data excites me. So basically, it doesn't feel like as much work as...
We both love data. I have a love for data. That's why.
Yeah, for the average user, like every time I post something, the comments I'm most scared of are from Monis, because he will go in and say there is this level of detail missing, and have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? So just for people to understand,
this is the stuff I'm also trying to answer, and I've, a few of the things I've solved, a lot I haven't. So the ones that I have a little bit, then I'm trying to get more information out of you. So it's just fantastic. But I'll tell you कि इतनी चीजें ऐसी हैं जो आपके पास आई हैं, I see on your Insta feed, that I actually make notes of, because I need that information for other analysis I'm doing. So just tremendously useful. Gee, I'm sorry. Over to you again.
No, but I didn't. I was mostly done, but like just in terms of the last piece of my background that might be relevant to this conversation is I've spent a bit of time at the State Bank, specifically within payments, so know a bit about the Fintech sort of space. I've done a lot of work in SME financing, so in other geographies, and like I'm hoping.
Where did you do that? Through a job?
Yeah. So in consultancy, in the GCC mostly. So across geographies. I worked in SME financing, and it's an area that excites me a lot. Obviously, हमें पता है पाकिस्तान की data landscape के बारे में, like SMEs contribute X% of the GDP, but only take up a small share, 40% of GDP, or I think 7% of private financing, or something like that.
You're right.
And so that's one area which is why I was also interested in talking to you, because my macro numbers दे सकता हूँ आपको, but you know the ground realities of exactly what's going on, and excited to learn from you as well during this conversation.
So, I mean, this is great. This is a great starting point, because I think हमारा जो interest है, that intersects very, very strongly is this SME and जो मैं कहता हूँ MSME, micro and small and medium enterprises. जो कि मेरे लिए, to be very honest, you know, this next phase of my entrepreneurship journey, अब मैं जो कर रहा हूँ, ये सारे startups जो कर रहा हूँ, मेरे लिए जो goal है, the mission है, what drives me now, and I think is going to drive me from now to a long time into the future, is I've discovered this magic that's available right now. It's an intersection between technology, financial services, loans and lending, and e-commerce. ये तीन चीजें हैं जो कि एकदम से ओपन हो गई हैं हमारे लिए, क्योंकि अब 110 million internet connected smartphone users आ गए हैं, और मैं हमेशा I say the same number, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again, उनमें से आधे लोग जो हैं वो पिछले 5 सालों में आए हैं और first time smartphones पे आए हैं, and they're starting to use it and trying to understand इसके साथ क्या कर सकते हैं. और ये जो आपका SME नहीं, MSME वाला जो सेगमेंट है, अब ये ऑनलाइन आ गया है आपके पास, इनके पास वॉलेट्स भी आ रहे हैं, इनके लिए टूल्स हम बना रहे हैं, और हम देख रहे हैं कि जैसे इन इस इको के दिस इकोसिस्टम इसके साथ हम जब एंगेज होते हैं, उनके लिए टूल्स बनाते हैं और allow them to exchange money and sell through easy platforms, through, you know, tech, इनमें बहुत ज़्यादा uplift आ रही है, बहुत ज़्यादा, and specifically talking about lending and now e-commerce. So that's what I'd like to focus on. So because we have this shared interest, what do you know about this SME market and MSME market and loans and lending? इसकी state of affairs क्या है?
Yeah, so just in terms of state of affairs, I think we sort of talked a bit about SME की contribution, you know, like between 35-40% to the GDP. In terms of employment, it's even higher. In terms of enterprises, it's even higher. So like they are important, that the lifeblood of sort of your economy. But इनको access to finance का जो issue है, it's not just within Pakistan, but within most emerging markets, most developing countries, access to finance has been an issue, right? So मैंने भी जो previously काम किया है, that's just how to crack this sort of sector, and it's great that you said MSME, because the micro segment is often, I also overlook it because it's just way bigger and has a much bigger issue associated with it. And 100% we should also be talking about MSMEs as a whole. Pakistan में what I feel is, in general, मैं शुरू करूँगा सिर्फ definition से, right? What is the definition of an SME in Pakistan, and is it good enough, right? Let's talk about, is it good enough? So in my sort of work and so my sort of analyses, comparing across geographies, मुझे and I obviously passed this on to the State Bank while I was there as well, was कि मेरे हिसाब से definition जो है थोड़ी कम है, right? So there, I think medium तक अगर आप ऊपर तक जाते हैं, you have 800 million of turnover, which is sizable, but it's still not comparable to other markets. So like according to my math, it should be something around 1.2 billion के करीब turnover होना चाहिए, and that's where the first problem for me lies. If you don't
dollars,
sorry. No, PKR. This is in PKR. So we're talking about really small companies over here. The definition is not as clearly sort of thought out as it should have been. इसका मसला क्या होता है कि हम banking का अगर landscape अगर पाकिस्तान में देखें, we step back a bit, you know that the government sort of crowds out the private sector, क्योंकि उधर आप जब financing कर रही है, all the big banks are financing the government. They don't have a lot of interest in financing smaller companies. But even companies as a whole, private credit to GDP in Pakistan is below 20%. Just to put that number into context, in Vietnam it's over 100%, and that's how it sort of got like driven the economy towards further development. Achha, access to finance important hai kyun? It's because you need money to make money, right? And like money makes money is a very simple sort of philosophy. All the SMEs that you're working with as well, I'm not talking about them making massive amounts of investment, but even something small as like working capital requirements, working capital being जो कि रोजमर्रा की खरीदारी है across the value chain, how do they finance that? सो इसमें बेसिकली जो मसला आता है वो कि गवर्नमेंट बहुत ज्यादा फोकस लेती है बैंक्स का, फिर जाके मे बी द लार्ज कॉर्पोरेट्स, देन यू हैव दिस maybe some SME financing scheme that the government introduces, but then you have this missing middle, as I call it, which is the higher end of the SMEs, which are completely ignored. So they're too small for the dedicated business banks to look after, and they're too big for anything micro enterprise related to look after. So that was my first sort of takeaway from the Pakistani landscape. कि इसमें definition हो सकता है थोड़ी बहुत change करनी पड़ेगी. Obviously, the second one is like lack of digitization, right? You spoke about 110 million smartphone users. I don't know if that's individual smartphone users, right? So PTA reports that they do.
Those are subscriptions.
Yeah,
so you can take
subscriptions.
About 70% of that number.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So if you do the math, I was going to come to a very similar number, which is 25 to 30% of Pakistan. So if you do your math and you divide it by adult population, 25 to 30% of Pakistan still does not have internet, right? That same number in Balochistan is at 60%, but we don't need to.
I will add, you're right about that, but here's what's scarier. Inme se 35 million people of the ones that do not have internet, aise log hain who live in areas that don't even have a tower nearby for GSM, not 3G, 4G. So 35 million aise log hain who do not have the hope of ever connecting to the internet. And I think this is something scary.
And I will make, just as a side point, I will add, so every time I start researching something, I go into this rabbit hole, right? So to improve this issue, what typically happens is every country has to have a universal service fund, right? So all the telcos will contribute a percentage of their revenues, and then it's a sizable fund in Pakistan as well. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I remember utilization was really small. So they have the money as well to do this. There are projects that are supposed to be underway to improve this. You can talk about fancy top line numbers of X many million users, but until they have access to the internet and fast internet as well, right? Everything that you're talking about, hum edge pe nahi kaam kar sakte isme. I have, as part of my work, traveled probably from north to south everywhere. So southern Punjab, I've done a lot of western KP as well. And I went to areas where there was no bar, or sometimes there was a bar, and it wasn't good enough to even WhatsApp. In ilaqo mein. And I understand like a lot of the tech stuff that we hear about and we see is focused on KLI. Maybe it's going a bit into a slightly bigger cities in Punjab as well. But remember, we need to take Pakistan up as a whole. And for that, I think ये थोड़ी छोटी-मोटी चीजों पे हमें focus करना पड़ेगा. The worst part is we have the money, right? पहले बोलते हैं poor country, etc. But the fund exists, and there are regulations as well.
And, when you talked about USF, you saw me. I was laughing a little bit because I know exactly what you're saying, and having analyzed USF a lot like you, and seeing what's going on, and analyzing वो जो आपके जो blind spots हैं that are not being hit and covered. आप मतलब you go to हुंजा चले जाएं, तो गिलगित चले जाएं, आपका इंटरनेट नहीं काम कर रहा, नथिया गली में, तो और लोग जा रहे हैं. I mean, I go there, you go there, the whole world is going, and then you ask yourself, इधर क्यों नहीं है इंटरनेट, and USF भी है, so they also have grants. But हकीकत ये है कि the telcos are operating under a tight environment right now. The taxation's high. इनके जो global investors हैं वो भी कह रहे हैं यार ये इतना expensive हो गया है, and हमारे ARPUs low हैं और ये और वो, and there isn't a lot of money left margin in basically the voice business. We need to move to the data business online. All of this is happening. But ये USF के grants भी available हो जाते हैं, मगर ये avail नहीं होते. क्यों नहीं avail होते? क्योंकि financial feasibility नहीं है. I have this much manpower. I have, hardware cost मेरी इतनी है. I need to get a certain amount of users around a tower year round. उसकी मेरी I have a feasibility. So if I have a bald spot in Lahore, someplace urban, तो मैं अपनी effort उधर लगाऊंगा. I'm going to make more money, even if you give me a subsidy to go into one of these areas. So USF is great idea, great intentions, but I'm sorry to say it hasn't made the impact that it should be making, and there are a lot of structural reasons for that. एक तो
Yeah.
ये है, दूसरी चीज जो है, which is, I'm an optimist. ये जो growth हो रही है हमारी has been fantastic, and आगे इससे बहुत ज्यादा growth आने वाली है. But caveat, the telcos अभी जो हैं, they have constraints in terms of bandwidth through the spectrum and licensing, and जितनी स्पीड से लोग इंटरनेट पे आ रहे हैं, उतनी स्पीड से आपकी बैंडविड्थ जो अवेलेबल है वो श्रिंक हो रहा है. एंड वेरी सून अब हर एक के पास स्मार्टफोन्स आ गए हैं, यूज केसेस भी आ रहे हैं. इवन योर कुक एंड योर चौकीदार एंड रिक्शा ड्राइवर, अब वो इंटरनेट पे हैं, they're watching YouTube. Bandwidth की availability is not growing, and it will not grow that much. मगर यूजर्स बहुत तेजी से ग्रो कर रहे हैं. The data consumption is growing twice as fast as internet users. इसका मतलब कि जब कोई आता है ना ऑनलाइन, वक्त के साथ they consume more of the bandwidth, तो आपकी प्राइसेस बहुत ऊपर जाएंगी, and quality of internet will go down even in the urban area. So I just want to share that with you.
No, fantastic. I can add at least two pieces of color to that. The first, you ended with price. So the price in Pakistan is 0.7% of national income, right? So that's the number that it is in Pakistan. Global average, UN recommendations, etc., around 2%. So I agree, prices will go up. This 0.7 will go to 2% at some point in time as more people come online.
So you're saying we are underpriced even compared.
We have really cheap data.
Even
yeah, we have. Yes, 100%. Okay. You have a lower price data, which is pretty common. I know, like India is also going to a completely different trajectory.
No, but are you using? I'm sorry, I'm going to ask.
GNI. Maybe. Yeah. So this is gross national income per capita.
But I mean, do we need to PPP adjust this?
Ooh, I can see and I can test that out. But
I'd love to see if that's close or above 2%.
Okay, I think that's something that I can sort out as well. Just for people who might not understand what PPP adjusted is, it's just purchasing power parity. So Monis wants to see is that are we comparing like for like? And I think that's something that we can provide at some point in terms of a data set.
Yeah, that's phenomenally interesting, and this would fuel the argument possibly for the telcos, because they're actually in a fight right now. Not a fight, but they're trying to convince the regulators that spectrum is too expensive and taxation is too high and all of these things. And I think we're going to hit a bottleneck. I think we're actually going to drive off a cliff until we solve this problem with the bandwidth.
100%. But there is another solution to the bandwidth, right? So like you're talking about feasibility, financial sort of R2 is too low, it doesn't make sense. There is a power wheeling regulation as well. I don't know if you've heard about that, which is while there is an issue of access to internet, remember Pakistan also has an access to electricity issue. So right, it's super interesting, which is the इलाका से you're talking about कि उधर हो सकता है internet ना हो, कुछ इलाकों में बिजली भी नहीं है, right? All these technology zones that you're talking about, जो दूर इलाके में भी बनेंगे, they need electricity as well and they need internet as well, right? Yes. When you start creating it. So there is a regulation that's been proposed around power wheeling, which is you work hand in hand, right? अगर fiber लगानी है, उसके साथ electricity wires भी लग रहे होंगे, the feasibility all of a sudden starts making sense.
Wow.
Right? And this exists already. So like I'm saying, Pakistan has the regulation to do this, yet there is not a lot of movement happening on this. And it's not just, think about Balochistan. So like when I heard the 60% no access to internet, I've been to Balochistan a few times as well, and just seen, but mera U-phone doesn't work anywhere, and Balochistan it was working. But apart from that, I saw the likes of Moblink and Bharat not really operating that well in Balochistan. Perfect place to do a power wheeling agreement, give them electricity as well, give them fiber optic as well at the same time. You lay more fiber optic, your bandwidth also increases. Again, I'm more of an economics person than a telco bandwidth person. But I'm sure there are synergies between electricity and internet sort of provision, which we haven't exploited enough.
Yeah, देखिए अब एक और इश्यू ये है कि अभी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जो है बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्योंकि जब तक ये इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर आएगा नहीं, ये आपकी ऑनलाइन इकोनॉमी में ग्रोथ नहीं आएगी, और वो जो लोग हैं उनकी ग्रोथ नहीं आएगी इनकम की। तो ये जो हमारा गैप है बिटवीन द अमीर लोग एंड पोर पीपल, ये जो गैप है ये इंक्रीज होगा। whoever does not have internet and phone coverage and bijli, uski income will be much lower than the person who all of a sudden does have a smartphone and now is able to apply for a job as a driver or move around and do a transfer of funds. So the government, I'm sure understands this, मगर उनके जो individual इदारे हैं, FBR has a target to meet for taxation, वो अभी का देख रहा है, इस साल का क्या है, मुझे अभी चाहिए इतने पैसे, मेरा टारगेट है। PTA has a target for the licensing, इतने licenses हैं इंडिया के में, इतनी सेल हुई, बांग्लादेश में इतनी की सेल हुई, I need the money, foreign exchange, इज्जत का सवाल है, तो increase the taxation, इनके तो इतने पैसे बनते हैं तो increase the tax. Internet पे you are adding a tax on the internet, आपके जो SMEs हैं, the moment you can grab them into the tax and आपका आ जा बच्चे अब तो I have you, ये सब चीजें ठीक हैं, मगर हमने इन्वेस्ट भी तो करना है ना। We need to get them all into the economy, into the fold, कि जी start transacting online, हम आपके पीछे नहीं आएंगे, we're not going to put a tax on e-commerce, इसको ग्रो करने दें। स्मार्टफोन्स के ऊपर we're not going to put a tax if you have an income bracket of this low, because हमारे इंटरेस्ट में है कि आपके हाथ में स्मार्टफोन आए। तो अभी इस तरह की सारी जो लॉन्ग टर्म जो है जो पॉलिसीज, अनफॉर्चुनेटली मेरा ख्याल है कि वो हाईजैक हो रही हैं with good intentions but short term interests of the departments inside the government, जो कि अपने short term goals को मतलब they're trying to achieve.
100%. And I think now maybe if we can talk about the economy a bit, iski solution again, if we make this conversation a bit about, how do we take this forward? So planning commission ka role, I don't know if you if most people see, but planning commission ka role needs to sort of come up, right? This long term thinking, all of this needs to come from the planning commission. So the ministry headed by Asad Umar, that's the ministry that needs to sort of take charge and say, okay, fine, finance, I understand you have these targets to meet. FBR, we know this target. PTA, we know this target. But according to our estimates, if you sort of kill all service, GST on digital transactions, right? You take a hit one year, you take a hit the next year, but the tax net increase eventually is going to be X%, and that's why you should do this right now, right? That one ministry should have this sort of long term horizon and do that right away, right? Instead of making budgets about ke 3 minutes se upar call pe tax hoga, ya phir IT remittances, freelance remittances are not being taxed enough, etc. Let's think about value and sort of a long term horizon on how to take things forward. Digitization pe the access to internet is also an important component in all the global rankings that you share, right? Every politician that will share, कभी ये नहीं शेयर करते वो कि हमारी ICT adoption की ranking जो है वो 131st is out of 141 countries. So like we're like in the bottom 10 countries, not bottom 10%, bottom 10 countries of internet sort of infrastructure adoption, all of that. But no one's going to share this because a lot of people just want to focus on the fact that ease of doing business improved by 36 places, which is also important. I'm not going to discount that.
Yeah, but I mean, how आप मुझे बताएं कि ये जो है this index, and this is going to be a debate I want to do with you, this ease of doing business, इसकी कितनी ground reality के साथ link है या अहमियत है? Is it sort of a metric that we're trying to achieve क्योंकि globally उसको लोग देख रहे हैं, उसको मानते हैं, या उसमें मतलब हकीकत भी है? और आपको मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ, सऊदी अरेबिया, उनकी रैंकिंग्स में बहुत इंप्रूवमेंट आई है, बहुत ज्यादा, और मैंने उधर भी काम किया। आई रन अ बिजनेस इन सऊदी अरेबिया, आई डू बिजनेस इन पाकिस्तान, और आपको मैं 100% क्लियरिटी के साथ कह सकता हूँ, 100% running a business in Saudi Arabia is 100 times harder than running a business in Pakistan. I guarantee you this. And I can give you specific examples. अब हमारे जो rankings हैं उनसे low हैं, उनकी जो improvement आई है एकदम से आई है, and उनके लोग भी आते हैं, they pay the World Bank, यार they've got consultants. So मैं तो ये कहता हूँ कि ये study ठीक है globally. If you want to get investment, you have to show something. इसको आप show करें. But internally, अगर उसको हम कहते हैं कि यार हमारा 3 point नीचे आए, 8 point नीचे आए, मैं उसको नहीं मानता, क्योंकि I've seen कि you can hit those scores, यार हमने ये कर लिया, मेरा score नीचे आ गया, मगर actually on the ground impact नहीं आया. तो I'm sorry, but my views on
No, this is exactly the kind of conversation I want to have, which is, let's get a bit micro. So like talking about ease of doing business, I won't have the exact breakups in front of you, but like the first point to note is that of all the countries in the world, I think there are 5 or 6 where this survey is city specific, right? So Pakistan is one of those countries. So the survey is only done Lahore and Karachi, right? Again, you will not see this in the footnotes anywhere. I need to go to the nth level of detail to find this stuff out, which is for ease of doing business, it's only conducted in Lahore and Karachi in Pakistan, right? So it's not a representative sort of sample for the rest of Pakistan. It's just Karachi and Lahore. I know this conversation is going a bit opposite of what you were trying to say, but let me just tell you how it's broken up as well. So like the aspect that drove us to the increase that we were talking about, which is super amazing increase, 36 points, was in starting a business, right? So they're making it easier to start a business, which is why the ranking increased. If you go another level down, I thought it would be all of the fantastic work that SCCP is doing, and hands down, I think SCCP and SBP, everything that I've seen in other markets is now at least being thought of in Pakistan in terms of the regulations.
ये जो हमारे 2 इदारे हैं, ये हमारे लिए हीरे हैं. SCCP में जो innovation आ रही है और जो speed से काम हो रहा है और जो new they're creating the sandboxes, उसमें हम भी हैं. We have a sandbox, a pilot for the P2P जो lending है, very progressive के इन्होंने ये allow किया है और उसमें बहुत impact आएगा. State Bank के साथ हम we've been doing a lot of work. We were the first EMI on the Finja side with State Bank. We've seen how they've created these rules and regulations, super progressive. So I think that's very good news for the ecosystem कि ये 2 इदारे हमारे जो इतने अहम हैं, ये बहुत innovative भी हैं और काफी efficient भी हैं.
Exactly, right. So 100% agreed on their regulations, etc. are fantastic in the last 2 years, which honestly is not reflected in the ranking yet. So it will be reflected this year in the ranking. So that's the first point. But improvement in starting a business, the highest increase actually came in getting electricity. Really? That's why your ranking improved. But wait, I will go another level down for you. Getting electricity does not mean getting electricity at home or at your business or at your office place. It means being able to apply for an electricity connection. That's where. So I'm taking you 3 levels down, and I'm telling you ease of doing business went up because getting business went up. Within getting business, getting electricity went up. Within getting electricity, what matters is how easily you can apply for an electricity connection, not provision of electricity.
अच्छा चलो ठीक है. अब see, these are, and this makes sense academically. It does make sense when you
exactly
electricity very important है, इसको ranking करो, उसकी weight ये
exactly.
But come on, when you're coming in, I mean, it doesn't reflect the experience of the entrepreneur जो कि जाके open कर रहा है. And this is what we're, the whole world is saying हमारी जो ranking चली गई है. But anyway, that's
so
a topic.
All of these institutions, how they think about it is more in where Pakistan ranks last everywhere, right? So like access to credit is also one aspect, which is really poor in Pakistan. Resolving insolvency, if an investor is coming, अगर कहीं बाहर से पैसा डाल रहा है, getting that money out is hard in Pakistan. Your recovery on the dollar is 43 cents, right? I'm giving you the actual number average in Pakistan. So investors, sorry?
Because of devaluation.
No. It's just because of lack of rule of law, right? So like your recovery of finance, the ordinance is not as sort of lender friendly as it should have been. I know it was supposed to be envisioned. Are you familiar with the recovery of finance ordinance?
No, I'm not at all.
It's just how you basically get your arrears back. So if, for example, a consumer on Finja defaults, how do you get that money back? I think you have a lot of unsecured sort of, again, I'm
We
assuming
are
these things.
all unsecured. We're all, and
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
great point here. Now we are an emerging market, and I think this is a great opportunity to start to talk about those loans and जो experience है हमारा. अब देखें जो MSMEs हैं, SMEs हैं, इनको loans कोई नहीं देता. बैंक तो लोन नहीं देते, और वो क्यों नहीं लोन देते? क्योंकि अमाउंट्स छोटी हैं, इनको स्कोर नहीं कर सकते, अनडॉक्यूमेंटेड हैं, इनके बारे में मुझे नहीं पता. तो फिर अच्छा इनके हाउस पेपर्स दें मुझे, तो गाड़ी के कागजात मुझे दे दें, कोलैटरल. मगर लोन अमाउंट इतने स्मॉल है, दे नीड 12,000 रुपीज, 18,000 रुपीज. इसके लिए मैं अपना लोन ऑफिसर उधर भेजूं और ये सारी चीजें करूं? इट डजंट मेक सेंस. Government is giving money to the banks give money to the government. They give अरबों रुपया एंड कोई काम नहीं करना उस पे, और अच्छी रिटर्न आ रही है, तो बस ये पार्टी चल रही है. एंड दिस इज व्हाट्स बीन हैपनिंग. अब एम्फेसिस तो आ गया है कि जी एसएमईज को लोन दें. ऑफ कोर्स लोन दें, क्योंकि आपकी इकोनॉमी उसके बगैर ग्रो नहीं करेगी. और एक बात, इफ यू जस्ट अलाउ मी, आई वांट टू रीफ्रेज व्हाट यू सेड अर्लियर, जो कि इट वाज अ वेरी गुड पॉइंट. जब तक आपके पास कैश नहीं है तो कैश नहीं बनता. यू कैन नॉट मेक मनी विदाउट मनी. वो क्यों है, और वो हम देखते हैं फिंजा में, हम उधार उनको देते हैं जो आपके छोटे छोटे स्टोर्स हैं, एमएसएमईज हैं, उनको हम उधार देते हैं. उधार क्यों देते हैं? क्योंकि उनका प्रॉफिट जो मार्जिन होता है ना, जब वो कोई चीज, when they buy something and they sell something, उनका कोई 8% for their retail on the grocery होता है. अब वो हफ्ते में 4 दफा they go on a buying cycle, buy sell buy sell. They make 24%, 28% on the capital they spend to buy goods. पर उनकी जेब में इतने पैसे होते हैं, उसका वो जाके इन्वेंटरी खरीदते हैं. इन्वेंटरी आता है, they have their stock आता है, उसका फिर वो सेल करते हैं. जब सेल करते हैं, उसका कुछ हिस्सा अपनी जेब में डाल देते हैं. उनके अपने अखराजात होते हैं, स्कूल फीस होते हैं, रेंट होता है, दूध, फूड, और जो भी उसके बाद दैट्स लेफ्ट ओवर, उसको स्टॉक में रीइन्वेस्ट करते हैं. अब ये जो है, दिस इज साइकिल. दे नेवर हैव इनफ कैपिटल टू इंक्रीज द स्टॉक टू अ लेवल कि दे कैन ग्रो देयर बिजनेस. तो आप बिल्कुल फ्लैटलाइन हो गए. नॉट कि आप बस फ्लैटलाइन हो गए, अगर कोई एक्स्ट्रा एक्सपेंस आ गया तो फौतगी होगी, और अस्पताल के आपके एक्सपेंस हो गए, या देयर इज अ शादी, या यू नीड टू बाय अ कार, फिर अगले महीने स्टॉक आप नहीं ले सकते. इसका मतलब है कि आपकी आमदनी भी नहीं होगी अगले महीने. तो ये सब कुछ इधर चल रहा है. तो फिंजा इनको उधार देता है, एंड जब इनको उधार देता है, दे रीपे इट इन 1 month. मगर उस एक महीने में हमारा जो लोन है, वो 4 दफा इस्तेमाल होता है. वो बाय करता है, सेल करता है, बाय करता है, सेल करता है, और उससे उसकी ठीक ठाक ग्रोथ आती है. तो हमने ये देखा है कि इनमें 40% अपलिफ्ट आती है आमदनी में, इफ यू कैन गिव देम क्रेडिट, 40%. और फिर उसकी सोच भी चेंज हो जाती है. व्हेन द कैश इंक्रीजेस, फिर वो और सोचता है, अच्छा मैं ये कर सकता हूँ, वो कर सकता हूँ. ही कैन बाय इन बल्क, ही कैन अवेल स्पेशल डील्स जो कि दैट आरंट अवेलेबल ऑल द टाइम. तो ये इसमें हो रहा है. बट इसमें ये लोन्स अनसिक्योर्ड है, और हमारा डिफॉल्ट रेट इस पे आपको बताता हूँ कि इट्स लेस देन 1%, अबाउट 0.6% है हमारा. अब हम तो ये स्पीड से काम कर रहे हैं. we've done about 50,000 of these loans, and we've learned this business. We've learned किसकी scoring है, इसके जो AI algorithms हैं, how to do collections, ये सारा it's a complicated thing, but अब ये हमें आ गया और बहुत स्पीड से grow कर रहे हैं. तो we were looking at the numbers, Faiz, and State Bank के numbers हैं for SME loans, and we were very surprised to know कि जितने SME loans हुए हैं last year according to State Bank numbers, उसमें 8% हमारे already a fintech which came out of nowhere, and we're not, but we're becoming one of the larger players in SME loans just this online, और अभी तो हमने start किया है. तो this smartphone based scoring algorithms, ये जो everything we're talking about, internet, ये सारा SMEs, अब इससे स्पीड आएगी. And now all of a sudden जितने MSMEs को आप loans दे सकते हैं, वो भी increase होगा. फिंजा में we've figured out how to do supply chain loans very well. जो आपके grocery stores हैं, FMCG वाली chain हमें आ गया. मगर ये जो SMEs हैं, MSMEs हैं, बहुत ज़्यादा हैं. 50 लाख MSMEs हैं इस मुल्क में. Yeah,
Yeah.
these include retail stores. This includes lady at home, who makes clothes, who runs a boutique, who sells jewelry, who makes cakes and bakeries. Big market है ये. उनको loans नहीं मिलेंगे. उनको loans क्यों नहीं मिलेंगे? क्योंकि there's documentation नहीं है उनकी. They aren't even incorporated in some cases. तो अब दुकान का ये गोल था. The purpose of दुकान is कि MSMEs के लिए एक वेब ऐप है, उर्दू में है, बहुत आसान है. Within half a minute आपका स्टोर ऑनलाइन हो जाता है. If you sell clothing or jewelry और जो भी आप सेल करते हैं, इस ऐप के थ्रू आपका स्टोर बन जाता है. We have payment integration, so you can get cash paid online, Visa, Mastercard, Jazz Cash, IBFT. We arrange for doing the last mile कि आपके पास जब ऑर्डर आता है, you click a button और आपके पास राइडर आ जाएगा. ट्रैक्स का आ गया. तो we've got a lot of others who are on the platform. So we take care of all the problems, and then उसके थ्रू जैसे आपके सेल्स हो रहे हैं, हम देखते हैं कि 3 महीने बाद आपके सेल्स का क्या, what's your track record. We understand a bit about you. आपका आईडी कार्ड भी हमारे पास है, जीपीएस, आप रियल हैं, और उसकी बेसिस पे हम आपको दुकान के ऐप के अंदर इनसाइड दुकान वॉलेट आपको हम इंस्टेंटली लोन दिया करेंगे, जो कि कोई नहीं कर रहा. तो गोल तो ये है कि जो भी सक्सेसफुल छोटे छोटे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं जिनके सेलें हो रही हैं, वी विल गिव देम प्रोडक्टिव लोन्स डायरेक्टली थ्रू द ऐप. तो दिस इज व्हाट रियली एक्साइट्स मी, क्योंकि दिस इज अ सेक्टर दैट्स वेरी हार्ड. और दुकान के ऊपर पिछले 4-5 महीनों में हमारे पास 1,20,000 स्टोर्स ऑलरेडी आ गए, और ये बहुत स्पीड से ग्रो कर रहा है. तो we're very excited. अभी ये हुआ नहीं है. This is all a dream. I'm explaining a dream to you. This hasn't happened, but it's very close to happening.
Oh, fantastic stuff. I think this is like the numbers that you were talking about in terms of SME penetration and how big you are. I can sort of verify that, I do believe that you will be that big.
It's a
I've seen
small
the
market.
penetration.
The point was really not that we're so big, but SME loan भी नहीं है. The
Yeah,
market
yeah.
is so small. Already we're 8%.
Yeah, so it's like $3 to $3.5 billion, if I'm not wrong. SME loans, a large bulk of that is the working capital. I think 65-70% is working capital. So very tiny market, but set to boom given everything that you're talking about, right? There is demand for sure, which is proven by the fact that you have 100,000 plus interested parties. So you understand that demand hai, but supply, as soon as the supply catches up, this market is going to boom. So I think very aligned with what you're talking about. In terms of investor interest as well, I think people finally understand कि हमारी जो ranking low है और ये सब low है, that really does not matter as much. What really matters is what's happening on the ground, and it's people such as yourself who are really selling that story to the rest of the world, encouraging them to come and invest. And you need that investment, right? I mean, you need that 85 million that's coming in and the 30 million that's coming in, because that will help create the right ecosystem over here. I think you need the funding gap is quite significant at the moment. I actually do have numbers. So while you were talking, I've just brought up the numbers for this SME supply chain finance that you were talking about. Currently, I think $38 billion की payments होती है पाकिस्तान में. Supply SME payments, supply chain payments, vendor payments are almost $40 billion. Even if they should technically all be financed, right? So I can give you a ballpark figure of at least 40 billion in assets need to be developed just within working capital SME financing. And I don't want to get more technical, and maybe we can take that offline. But I had a question for you, which is, how is it that without any sort of collateral, SECP is working on this collateral registry as well, movable assets, all of this, where businesses they need itna sara collateral. How have you, plus all the individual microfinance companies that report sub 1%, NPLs or non-performing loans, how does that happen? Is that the risk sort of models that you guys have, which are so advanced? Is it something as basic as stamp paper with sign karado, so people take it more seriously? I'm just trying to understand more of the ground realities over here.
बहुत अच्छा सवाल है आपका. And I think to answer this question, you have to come into the field with me. I want to take you to my clients. I want you to meet the owners of the Kriana store. I want you to have a conversation with them. And once you start to understand how they work, how their mind works, how they transact and do their business, you figure out that there's some unwritten rules that are hardly ever broken. और एक ये चीज है कि if I'm a store and if I'm a trader, my word is my most important asset. क्योंकि उसकी ही basis पे I get my saman and I give. I don't break that word. And दूसरी ये चीज है कि देखें, अगर मैं like I give a loan, like a nano loan जो कहते हैं, to a worker on the street, और उसके मैं फोन की information देता हूँ, I look at his call records, और रात को call करता है, he's on a top up postpaid, ये सारा this is a theory कि nano loans इस तरह करते हैं. हकीकत ये है कि उसमें भी आपका default rate is 50 to 60%, meaning worse than a toss of a coin, right? तो ये सारा it's nonsense, it's जादू. और होता ये है कि वो loan losses बहुत ज्यादा हो जाते हैं, मगर उनमें से जो लोग हैं who repay you, आप फिर उनको loans again and again देते हैं, तो आपकी वो जो losses हैं वो आपकी it's your acquisition cost, so you flood the money. तो ये it's a risky loan, क्योंकि अगर आपके हाथ में I give you 20,000 रुपए, not you but a worker, शायद मुझे दे वापस, शायद वो उसकी buys a cell phone and says okay bye. अक्सर ऐसे ही होता है कि okay bye, this right, this is a buy वाला thing. But if I give a loan to a shop और मैं देख रहा हूं कि इसका 8% का मार्जिन होता है जब इतना स्टॉक लेता है, he has X amount of people who enter, the footfall का आइडिया हम लगा देते हैं based on stock inventory, we have an AI model on that, तो we know कि यार इसकी इतनी सेल हो जाती है. जब हम उसको लोन देते हैं तो that cash, एक तो he's very grateful for that cash because I give it at 2.5% to him, he makes 24 to 28 on it, तो he's making extra great money. दूसरी बात ये है कि उस लोन का हम क्लोज लूप कर रहे हैं कि अपने सप्लायर से ही खरीद सकता है, तो वो कैपिटल कैन नॉट गो ऑन बाइंग अ मोटर बाइक. It's going directly for goods he's purchasing from a distributor or from a principal. तो because of that, अगर goods खरीद रहा है तो I know कि ये सेल भी होंगे because they move fast. तो if I know कि सेल भी होंगे, I know he's going to make money. If he's making money, I know I'm going to get repaid because he wants my loan again next month. So this is the productive loans, और ये हर इंडस्ट्री में है. We've cracked it here because the data sources अभी नहीं है, तो we've understood this, but बहुत से और इंडस्ट्रीज में ये हो रहा है. एग्जाम्पल आपको देता हूँ, ये आजकल एक मूवमेंट चल रही है for Amazon resellers, people who are being trained on Amazon. आपके organizations हैं, extreme e-commerce, आपका है enablers हैं, I don't know if you've heard of them, amazing people.
I have, yeah.
Million plus इनके students हैं जो कि go to their incubation centers, take their classes online, learn how to sell on Amazon and eBay. और जैसे सीखते हैं, then they actually have to go and procure inventory. Often they buy the inventory in China, or they work with a factory in Sialkot, और Amazon के ऊपर आ जाता है, and then they do a target for a market in France को target करो, तो target करो, अपना brand बनाते हैं, और उनकी सेलें अभी start हो गई हैं और ठीक ठाक बनाते हैं. उसमें issue क्या है? उसमें issue ये आता है कि जैसे आपके sales हो रहे हैं, you have to do more stock, but you don't have enough capital for stock. और हजारों इस तरह के लोग हैं who are stuck in this. But अगर मैं देख रहा हूँ, Amazon का data मैं देख रहा हूँ, I'm going into their Amazon account, मैं देख रहा हूँ कि यार हर महीने he's making $1 million on this, इसकी सेलें increase हो रहे हैं. I should be able to score that data reliably. I should be able to say इस basis पे ये ले आप stock और खरीदें, क्योंकि आपको पता है उसको stock के ऊपर he's making 40%. 40% बनाता है in how long? 2 weeks.
Wow.
2 weeks में 40% बना रहा है. But I don't have the confidence कि इसको मैं पैसे दूं because I'm a bank. यार ये क्या है, नहीं समझ आता. But और इस तरह की बहुत सी opportunities हैं. अभी we'll speak about a few more things, but that's an insight I want to share with you.
No, 100%. So you're saying unsecured loans, you need to understand consumer behavior, and that's basically why you can keep your NPLs at a low. The big banks can't do it because they can't treat that small amount as an acquisition cost. Their risk tolerance is not as high. They have the government to sort of feed their bellies, and they're not really interested. Instead, what they've started doing... Sorry?
That's a kind way to say it.
But at the same time, what I've seen in other markets and what I'm seeing over here is that the incumbents have started direct investments into these startups. Right? They've realized they cannot do this. I believe something like that's happened with you as well. How has that experience been? Uh, is there any sort of cross collaboration, or is this more like you stay standalone and let me operate in an industry that I know well, or is there any learning lessons exchange?
देखिए हमारी last investment round on Finja was a 10.15 million round in dollars में, और वो round international investors ही हैं हमारे जो आते रहते हैं, they reinvest, they're great funds. Last round में we had a cushion of about $1 million extra, and we said यार in case कोई अच्छा आ जाता है we'll allocate. Habib Bank, to our surprise, came in and said, okay, we would like to do this. So, initially I'm like, yaar, Habib Bank hai, old bank hai, they won't understand that, valuations nahi aayenge, unko samajh ye to bahut mehengi hai, ye hai, wo hai. So we thought, chalo, let's talk to them. But what a surprise we had, Faiz. I have never, and I've worked with most of the banks, I know the management teams. हमारे कुछ बहुत अच्छे banks हैं पाकिस्तान में, but वो एक हाथ पे, in fact, maybe less fingers than on one hand, उतने हैं. Or Habib Bank tops. It's just amazing that management of such a large bank, how progressive minded they were. So they came in on the same terms as the international VC. There's no argument there at all. And they have a minority stake, a very small stake. But wo kyun aana cha rahe the isme? Because they know, okay, these new age organizations, as we're getting SME loans, we can add value to them. Because it's hard for them to move the capital and scale and all of that kind of stuff. And here are these guys with kind of high tech and they want to do this and they're doing it and they've got a track record of doing it. Okay, fine, let's work together. So banks are now it's amazing the kind of work we're doing with banks, because banks said that we'd like to do this. It's expensive for us to do. It takes time. We have to learn how to do this. You already are doing it. Take our money. So now banks are giving us the loan books, और उनके लिए हम invest करते हैं, उसमें हम fee भी लेते हैं. मतलब we also have a share in that. But the Habib Bank wala experience was a pleasant surprise, a big one. One, they came into that investment round. Two, Habib Bank is a massive network. Management is so progressive. They have been so open with us and kind. There are all kinds of things that we're going to be doing with them, and of course with other banks. It's not exclusive at all. And they were open-minded about that. कि नहीं, it doesn't have to be exclusive. तो इस तरह की जो सोच है वो इस मुल्क में बहुत rare है. And this is why there aren't a lot of deals that happen with the new economy and the old economy. But what we're seeing is कि इस तरह के इदारे हैं and इस तरह के लोग हैं who've really turned the corner on this. And I think बहुत अच्छी चीजें होंगी उसकी वजह से.
Fantastic. Like I didn't know the answer, but I did expect the answer to be something like that, because I've heard very similar things about the ecosystem, that the new economy and the old economy, how you put it, is trying to sort of come together and see how to take Pakistan to the next level. My last question sort of for you, and you can ask me some as well if you want, is this interest around BNPL. So buy now, pay later. Okay, let me sort of give you more context behind that question, which is Pakistan mein POS, like digital payments, etc., are obviously lagging far behind. Yes, they're about to step up with Rust. I was fortunate enough to be part of the team that was working on Rust at one point in time, so at the state bank. But I think instant payments, faster payments will change the landscape next year. But till that happens, POS penetration is going to remain low. I know there's an issue with merchant acquiring fee being too low before, and now it's going up a bit. Issuers took a lot of the money before, and now their fee is capped. So this whole POS, point of sale infrastructure, is going to change. Credit card penetration, I don't know if it will go up. And given that we don't have a lot of experience with credit cards, but we have sort of a informal, the Dukans that you are talking about also don't just have trade credit, they also have informal credit with the people who live in their neighborhood.
Yes.
Right? एक हफ्ते बाद पैसे दे देंगे या 2 हफ्ते बाद पैसे दे देंगे, and they know the people, etc. That is informal BNPL. Do you think this whole rage about buy now pay later that's happening across emerging markets now, which happened in the developed world around 3 years ago, is going to trickle down in Pakistan and make it big?
Yeah, so I have a lot of data on this. I mean, real time. data. We're working with BNPL providers in Pakistan. In fact, Finja jo hai hamara, that's actually B2B BNPL. If you see, that's really BNPL, but that's B2B with the MSME. But the B2C wala, and B2C means from a business to a consumer. Agar main aur aap, we go to a khadi site and we buy some clothes on installments. That's B2C. Already हम देख रहे हैं कि जिन shops ने ये activate किया है, इनके sale जो हैं, they're increasing by about 3x. I've seen this with my eyes. So there's a friend of ours who we work with for loans. He sells online, e-commerce hai, and Finja is working with him. He saw my talk with Jordan, who's doing BNPL with Kispe. He contacted them. उन्होंने उसको activate किया है. And his sales are going through the roof and he's going crazy. He's like, I need more cash. I need more capital because मेरे sale 3x increase हो गया. I need to buy more stock. तो एक नहीं, दो नहीं, 3-4 big players आ जाएंगे next 1-2 सालों में. I guarantee it. और जैसे वो आएंगे, इनके जो models हैं, वो this is a Western model जो मतलब इस मुल्क में we might not understand. हमारा जो इधर सेठ है वो कहेगा this makes no sense, are you crazy? मेरे तो I'm going to lose so much money on this BNPL, मैंने तो नहीं करना, इसकी जो feasibility नहीं बन रही. But इसका model is very much like the nano loan model. And क्योंकि इसमें जो players हैं, इन्होंने ये काम किया हुआ है already in other emerging areas, they've done Philippines and Indonesia and India, तो they know कि यार you have to get this much in losses, मगर उसके बाद इतनी तेजी से increase करता है. मैं आपसे मैं क्या कह रहा हूँ, मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि हमारा जो है like our consumer, उसकी ईद होने वाली है क्योंकि बहुत कैश इसमें आने वाला है. You'll be able to buy everything on BNPL because these third party startups are going to fuel it with big capital. Already उनके पास अच्छा खासा कैश है और वो इतना आसान करेंगे, आपसे अपना नाम पूछेंगे, फोन नंबर, एड्रेस, और कहेंगे हाँ ठीक है. अब पीछे जो भी कहेंगे कि हमारी ये वुडू साइंस है, इस तरह करते हैं, वो होता होगा, मगर फर्स्ट जो BNPL का लोन है उसमें लॉसेस बहुत हाई हैं, होंगे, एंड इट्स बिल्ट इनटू देयर बिजनेस मॉडल क्योंकि वो उनकी एक्विजिशन कॉस्ट है. Merchants will run to them कि यार I want it, they're going to lose money. मैं और आप जाएंगे, हम शूज खरीदेंगे, ये खरीदेंगे. हम में से कुछ लोग हैं who will repay them, हम में से ऐसे कुछ लोग हैं who will never repay them. मगर जो लोग हैं ना who repay them, उनको वो दोबारा देंगे और eventually इनके scoring algorithms strict होते जाएंगे, वो सीखेंगे, एंड उनके फर्स्ट टाइम जो लॉसेस हैं वक्त के साथ वो नीचे जाएंगे, मगर उस वक्त तक उनके इतने लार्ज इंस्टॉल बेस ऑफ यूजर्स होंगे जिनके अच्छे लोन्स हैं और उससे उनकी अच्छी खासी आमदनी आएगी. और इसका मॉडल जो बहुत खूबसूरत है वो ये है कि आप इस पे इंटरेस्ट नहीं देते, यू डोंट पे अ मार्कअप, जिससे आप खरीदते हैं वो उनको दे रहा है, और वो क्या मार्कअप दे रहा है? 7%, 12%, ठीक ठाक मार्जिन उनको देता है. ठीक है, और वो क्यों दे रहा है? वो इसलिए दे रहा है क्योंकि उसकी सेल इंक्रीज हो गई है बाय 300%. कह रहा है चलो ठीक है, मेरा तो मार्जिन है, आई मेक 40%, ठीक है, आई विल हैंड यू दिस मनी. तो बेसिकली आई थिंक इट्स अ गुड थिंग क्योंकि जैसे ये आते हैं और वी स्टार्ट टू गेट लॉसेस, द क्रेडिट स्कोरिंग डेटा विल इंक्रीज फॉर एवरीबडी कि यार ये लोग अच्छे हैं, और वो इकोसिस्टम भी ग्रो करेगा, एंड वी विल ट्रेन पीपल टू रीपे लोन्स. अभी आज के दिन में इफ यू गो टू अ क्रेडिट ब्यूरो लाइक ECIB पे चले जाएं या और कोई ब्यूरो, और हमने ये काम किया, और एवरेज यूजर हु वांट्स अ लोन, उसकी आप ECIB रन करें, इफ यू डू अ चेक ऑन हिम, उसमें वो 99% लोग ऐसे होंगे जिनका कोई रिकॉर्ड ही नहीं है ECIB में, तो इट्स ओनली यूजफुल फॉर द 1%, एंड यूजुअली द वर्ड. तो मैं ये कह रहा हूं कि वो वी डोंट हैव डेटा टू गिव लोन्स. तो जब तक इस तरह की अनसिक्योर्ड लेंडिंग बेस्ड ऑन डेटा एंड बेस्ड ऑन AI एंड ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड एंड पैटर्न, जब तक ये स्केल नहीं करेंगे, देन एवरीबॉडी इज गोना से उधर तो आपको लोन्स नहीं मिलते, तो दे विल कीप रैंकिंग्स लो. अफ्रीका में हमने ये देखा है कि ये प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो चुका है. दिस इज नॉट अ इम्पॉसिबल प्रॉब्लम, और ये इधर भी सॉल्व हो रहा है.
So credit bureau coverage in Pakistan is around 12%. So yeah, not 99, 88, but that's close enough. Yeah. But are you circling back and feeding data into
so I want to also say one thing कि credit bureau की जो entries है ना, the data, there's repetition in them. तो आपके हो सकता है 8 entries, right? So if you look at the unique records who are on there, I don't have the exact number, I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
From my understanding, there's a lot of duplication in them across the credit bureaus and even inside the credit bureau and is tarah ki cheezein.
Yeah.
But it's
but regardless, are you feeding back data so that we sort of have this macro registry for credit? At some point in time, we will have open banking in the world, and I'm assuming Pakistan will be part of that ecosystem. So this sharing of data, having a sort of registry, is that something that's happening as well?
Haji, if you're a licensed entity with State Bank, SECP, then you are mandated to report every time you do a loan. From a regulatory perspective, you have to do a credit check and you have to report ke ye loan, matlab, you're doing the loan. And then the repayment also has to go. So this is a regulatory requirement if you are under the ambit of, for example, SPP, State Bank. Magar agar aap nahi hai, you're a fintech and you are not under a license and you're not being mandated to do it, तो फिर मतलब आप नहीं करेंगे. अभी भी तो loans है ना. There are people in the market who give loans जो कहते हैं पठान loan जो कहते हैं, right? It's not only of course the Pathans, but those loans are unrecorded. Nobody knows कि यार उधर loan चल रहा है. You have a loan at your store on the neighborhood. I don't know कि वो loan चल रहा है आपका.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So क्योंकि ज़्यादातर लोग ये information नहीं दे रहे, the credit in this country is largely informal and it's super exorbitant. आपके जो official loans हैं from financial institutions about 2% only, but over 50% of the population takes some kind of a credit in some way. वो information हमारे पास नहीं है. तो बहुत ज़रूरी है कि जितने लोग इसमें involved हैं ecosystem में, they responsibly report data back to the credit bureaus that exist now. क्योंकि otherwise इस ecosystem की health is going to collapse. क्योंकि आपको जब मैं score करूंगा मैं कहूंगा यार इसकी अच्छी आमदनी है, ये भी है, चलो उसको लोन दे दो. I don't know कि आपने इधर से भी लोन लिया है, उधर से भी लोन लिया है, इधर से भी लोन दिया है.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation for you to report and to formalize the economy like most startups, most companies that I talk to, even the informal ones, I say register and come into the sort of net so that you can become part of this formalization. And I know in some cases it doesn't make sense. In some cases the taxes are too much and you're not making enough margins, etc. But like from what I've at least realized is if you become part of the formal ecosystem, things become easier for you. At a certain level.
ऐसे ही होगा. Like eventually लोग आ जाएंगे, especially with all of these good things happening. If you can easily get a loan and you can easily do this and you can easily do that, तो eventually लोग आ जाएंगे. The convenience of being paid online is so much. आपका जो expense है ना that you save in your taxes, cash handling. If you look at the cash handling expense and the pilferage expense, yeah, you might as well use that money or halal se just pay your taxes.
Yeah, it is. It's 2.5-3% cash handling expense, probably more in most cases, but I think average is around that. So, for example, not having a POS. Sorry.
The pilferage is also very high.
Yeah, but so not having digital sort of payments is like it doesn't really make sense to me. And like think about like our identity stack, right? Nadra. How long ago we established it and what it could have done in the past almost 20 years. I think now is when we might be able to use it properly and take Pakistan to the next level, but I don't think we've taken enough advantage of it. Look at UPI, Aadhaar in India and where they've taken the ecosystem. Till 2017, I think India and Pakistan had very similar financial transactions sort of data, 16, 17. UPI came in and you will see this massive increase in formalization, in sort of, the cash being driven out of the economy. They do 2 billion transactions a month now, like 2 billion from nothing to 2 billion in 4 years is something that Pakistan can also achieve. But let's see how.
Yeah, Faiz, I think ye hoga that it's just a matter of time. India ki jo growth aayi, if you look at their smartphone user growth and how quickly that grew, you can directly correlate all of this other growth on the back of their smartphone user internet growth. Jitni tezi se spike aaya na usme, how quickly e-commerce grew, this inclusion grew, and loans and lending grew. And I think it's all driven, if you trace it all the way back, it's driven back to the tower being available, the telco tower being available, and वो smartphone का access. अगर ये दोनों चीजें हैं ना मेरे पास और बिजली है, फिर ये सारा होता है. All of this happens after that. So Faiz, thank you so much. We've been over an hour. Our time went so quickly. So much more to talk about. We'll speak offline too, inshallah. But very grateful for your time, and thank you for everything that you're doing. All of the data, all of this information you're aggregating. I cannot begin to tell you how impactful and useful it is, and nobody else is doing it, and you're doing it as a hobby and just to make sure that you can help, and that is so admirable.
I am still incorporated, even if this is a hobby. Just to flag that I am incorporated.
Mashallah, mashallah. There's a business model in here. I'm sure your wheels are turning. My wheels already are too. We'll speak about that.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Hafiz.